Hi all. Let's do some more Visual Basic. This one is gonna go along with the previous video on the console. In the previous video we only wrote to the console. In this video we're gonna get information from the console. So let's run it and then it'll make more sense to you. Start Visual Studio, create a new project, create a console application, and then you can see here this code and this code that's already in here, so we only need this code here. Now this is something new too. This is comments. For a Visual Basic comment, comments are just notes to yourself. It helps you remember what you did. Usually there's a lot of comments inside of programs. The reason for that is it's easy to remember what you did a day or two down the road, but sometimes you come back to your code a week or a month or a year later and it's hard to remember, well, why did I do that, or I should have done it this way, or you know. So what programmers do is they put comments inside their code to help explain it. So in Visual Basic, what they do is they put an apostrophe, and then any text that comes after that is the comment. So that's a comment. This is a comment. The comment won't be displayed on the screen. It's just, it stays in the background. So. Okay, let's compile it. Let's run it. Okay, so we create an integer and set it to 0. Here's something else new. We did that all on one line. In the previous examples, we did num1 as integer, and then on the next line down we put num1 would equal 0. Well, here, if you want, you can do it all on one line. Create num1 as an integer and make it equal to 0. And then we did a console.write, no WriteLine, just a write, because we want that cursor blinking here. It just looks cleaner. And we put the text here. You have to explain to the user what you want, because there's no buttons and forms to put text on. Yeah. So you have to put the text on the screen to explain to the user what you want them to do. So here it says, please enter a number from 1 to 10 and then press the enter key. So we'll press the number 7, and you can see just by pressing a 7 that doesn't do nothing, right? You still have to press the enter key. So press the enter key, and then this would be the different part, console.ReadLine. It goes out to the console and gets that text that we entered. It reads that line that we entered. It grabbed the 7 and stuck it into num1. We had set num1 to 0, but ReadLine grabs that number that we entered and changes num1 to that number. So num1 is now 7. And then we do a console.WriteLine. Number is colon space, and then we add our num1 to the end of the line. And because we did a WriteLine, it moves this down a line and prints this text down here. Okay, so that one's a little tricky. I only wanted to go over these in case you bump into these in a class you're taking. These are kind of tough to get a hold of at first. You just have to print it out, study it, carry it around in your pocket, or write it out on an index card or something. So the rest of them in this file, they're all basically the same. I just kind of expand on it some. So here in number 2, we create 3 integers, 1, 2, 3. So num1, num2 in total. And this is the same as the previous one. We grab the first number, then we do it again, grab a second number, then we add the 2 numbers together, store it in total, and then print out your total is total. Okay, so let's run it and we'll see what this does. Compile it, and then we'll run it. Okay, so we created 3 integers, num1, num2 in total, and then we wrote this to the console. Console.write, please enter a number 1 to 10 and press the enter key. We'll enter 2 and press the enter key. Now it grabbed that number 2, console.readline grab number 2 and stored it here. So num1 is now equal to 2. Then we print it out. Please enter a number 1 to 10 and press the enter key. That's how we get the second line. So now we'll enter a 3. Press the enter key. When we press the enter key, it grabbed that second number, it grabbed 3, stored it in num2, and then we added the 2 numbers together. So num1 is equal to 2, num2 is equal to 3. We'll put 5 inside total. We had created total up here and set it to 0. We changed total to 5 here. Then we did a console.WriteLine. Your total is, and we put total on the end of the line, and that's how we get the 5 here. We did a WriteLine, so it moves this down a line. And then just press the enter key to quit the application. So you can see that one's kind of like an adding machine. Okay, so you can see these things get big really fast. Just by adding a few lines of code, that they start to expand really fast. As you learn more, as you study this more, your level of comprehension will get bigger, so you can keep more inside your head. Might be kind of hard now, but just kind of study through this the best that you can. Okay, so this is a tough one. We're kind of jumping ahead, but I thought we'd go over this in case you bump into this in a class that you're taking. So then you'll have a working example. Let's run it and you can see what it does, and then we'll go over it. So we'll start Visual Studio. Create a new project. Create a new console application. It's only 3 lines of code, but it's a tough one. Paste in the code. Then we'll compile it. And now we can't run it from here. Blew things up because it's not expecting to run from there. Okay, so what we have to do is find the actual application that we created, the .exe. So if you didn't change things, it should be in your user folder, your document folder, your Visual Studio folder, your projects folder, and then we're on console application 8. So console application 8, and then in console application, bin folder, bin for binary, in the debug folder, and right here console application 8.exe. That's the actual application that we created. So I'm going to right click and copy. And then I'm going to go down to C:, and I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to say number 8. I'm going to go into that folder and paste that in. Okay, now I'm going to open a DOS prompt. Mine shows up here because I use it a lot, but if you don't use it, you find it down in Windows System, and it's the one with the black icon, Command Prompt. And yours will start up as a black screen, but I have mine set as a white screen so it's easier to read. It's like a white piece of paper with black text. So it's C:, and then user folder and user 01 folder. These are just folder names. So I'm going to go CD, change directory, back 1 folder. So you can see how we change back a folder. Then, so now we're down at the bottom level. We're at C:. Now we're going to CD into number 8. Okay, now we're in the number 8 folder. So we're looking at this guy here. We can do a dir to list the contents. So here's our console application 8. That's the one we just put inside here. And then just type in the name of the application. Just press C and the tab key and it completes the file name for you. Then I'll type in text. Hello. Press the enter key and it said your command line argument is hello. See, I typed that text on the command line. That was the first argument on the command line that I typed in. Okay? So you can see that gets a little tricky. I have a whole video where I talk about going over the basics of the command line. You don't have to be a genius at using it, but you should understand the basics. If you take a programming job, you want to understand the command line some. So to go over the code, we create a variable called arguments as a string. And then we go to the environment variable, that's the environment inside the computer, and use the command get command line arguments. So get command line arguments went out and grabbed the hello and stored hello in the variable we created called arguments. Then we did a console.write. Your command line argument is. That's how we get the text here. Your command line argument is. And then we added to the end of the line arguments. And then we have the number 1 inside parentheses. Okay, so this parenthesis goes with this one. This parenthesis goes with that one. And then the outside one goes with that one. So what this is an array. We haven't gone over arrays yet. That's coming up soon. But that's a pretty tricky topic to cover right now, but I just wanted to go over this for those who might be seeing this in a class they're taking. So you can see it's argument number 1. Just real briefly, arrays start at number 0. So argument number 1 is actually the second argument. So that's what we do in this one here. So let's run through 4 and it'll show you the first argument, the second argument. So we build it, and then we're in console 8. We could navigate here with the DOS prompt, but that's kind of monotonous. Copy. Then we'll put this in our number 8 folder. Okay, so just to run through the code. Remember, these are kind of advanced. So I'm just throwing these in now for the people who might need them. So here, we're creating a string array, and we're calling it arguments. And then we're doing the get command on the same line. So when we run the application from the command line, it goes to the environment, gets the command line arguments, and stores them in the string array here. These parentheses mean array. And then we do 3 write lines. First write line does this one here. Your command line argument is, and it grabs argument for 0. the first item in the array. The first item is in the array is the name of the application. Usually you don't need it, but that's where it's at. And then we do the second printout. It says your command line argument is the second argument in the array. See, this hello that we typed in, that's actually the second argument. So it prints out hello. And then on the third line, I just stick them both down here so you can see. You can put them both on here. So your command line argument is, your command line argument is, and then argument for 0 is console application.exe, and argument number 2 is the hello. So you can see these get tough really fast, and what I found as I researched this is there's an old way to do it in VB.net, a new way to do it in the new Visual Basic, so you'll see different examples out on the web. Okay, this line here, that's a tough line. You know, up top here we broke that into 2 separate lines, and then down here we do it in 1 line. So I personally would never do things like that. It gets too hard to understand. As a general rule, you only want one thing to happen on each line. Okay? Here we have 2 things going on. First we create the array, and then we go out and get the arguments. So there's 2 things happening on each line, which is fine, but it's nice to keep the code as simple as possible and have one thing happen on each line, like we did here. One thing happens here, one thing happens here. Okay, and this last one is basically the same thing, but it's just a fancier way to print things out. I think that's good for today. Don't let the last couple scare you away. When we get into the command line and entering text here, you know, these last 3, 4, 5, those are tough for the beginners. I just wanted to throw those out there since we're working on the command line. But if you're new at this, I wouldn't even bother with these yet. You know, main thing for the beginners is the console.read. I thought you might be interested in, well, okay, how do I get numbers from the command line? And that's where the ReadLine comes in. Okay, see ya. Bye.